Hi everyone, Tahara Ezrahti here from Applied Intuition, and today I'm here with, again, the wonderful Corinne Cevaer-Corey. She's a counseling astrologer, and we're going to talk about big picture for what's going on right now in early 2025, and then also talk about the transits coming up for the next several months. So Corinne, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Tahara. It's going to be fun to talk
Yeah,
about
so we're in mid-February 2025. That's where we're at right now. So tell us, what is going on big picture?
Okay, so big picture, a lot, especially in the first half of 2025. Um, and so 2025 is yet another, and perhaps, or we all feel the final year of transition. We've been in a 5 year, it seems it's been an eternity since 2020. The sky has evolved in such a pace that we have had to catch up, and it has been about deep transformation and evolution. And 2025 is still going to be a big year of endings to prepare for new beginnings. It's still a final year of transition. We are headed into, we already began, but we are headed into the age of Aquarius, an age that we could call an age of abundance, of renaissance, lighter, uh, less full of trauma and difficulties and challenges for humanity, and lighter, happier, more joyful, going forward, starting 2026 and on. So 2025, the reason why it is yet again another big pivotal year is because we're having 5 planets change signs, but three of them, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, are very slow moving planets. And the probability of them all changing signs from heavy, stagnant, hypersensitive water and water and earth signs, into lighter, more passionate, um, into the world of ideas, fueled by fire and air. So Pluto moved into Aquarius for the final time last November 19th, 2024, and will be in Aquarius. Now it's there. It's not going back to Capricorn. It's in Aquarius and for the next 20 years. But Neptune is in Pisces still, which is, super spiritual, compassionate, humanitarian, hypersensitive, artistic. It's the dream world. Neptune is moving into Aries at the end of March 30th. But we'll dip back into Pisces in the fall, and then we'll finally enter Aries at the beginning in January of 2026. So Neptune is doing that final transition between Pisces and Aries, and then same with Uranus, is moving from locked, stable, like steadfast Taurus, beautiful. It's Gaia's sign, Taurus, right? It's like Mother Earth. It's like food and roots and stability. Uranus is the great awakener. So the Uranus, having been in Taurus, has been very difficult for all of us because it has been shaking what we were hanging on to for dear life as what we hope is to stay secure. And it's all changing, and we're being thrown off, our horses. So Uranus is moving from Taurus to the next sign of Gemini, which is air, communication, fast, speed, airways, and relationships and networks. So Uranus is moving into Gemini July 7th, but it will dip back into a Taurus in the fall, and finally move into Gemini for good in April of 2026.
Okay, so that's the final wrapping up of the 2025. It's still a year of transition, and by April of 2026, these three major outer, slower moving planets are going to be in a new air or fire sign for quite a few years.
Right, like Uranus is about a 7-year cycle in a sign, roughly. Neptune, 14 or so, and then Pluto will be in Aquarius for 20 years. They are very slow moving, and when they shift signs like that, there's a big shift for all of humanity. It's the consciousness level is shifting, and the paradigms are shifting. There is the breaking of the old, and then the birth of the new systems, new technologies, and things are going to speed up, speed up, speed up as we move forward, but not quite yet, because we're still today having a Mars retrograde in the sky, and we already entered the shadow. The Venus is going to be station retrograde March 1st, but we've already entered that energy of retrograde of Venus since the last weekend of January.
So tell us, when a planet is retrograde, especially a personal planet like Mars or Venus, how might that make someone feel, and what would be a good use of that time period?
Right. So to talk about both of them are relationship planets. Mars is the male, Venus the female. Mars is the outgoing. Venus is what are my desires? What are my values? And then Mars says, okay, how do I go about getting those desires met, right? So Mars is the outer, and then Venus tends to be still, the receiver, giving, receiving, right? The back and forth between the male and the yin and the yang. So, but Mars, being the planet of leadership and assertiveness and life energy, life force, and the planet of work and the planet of action. It has been retrograde since December 6th of last year. So, we felt the momentum slowing down with whatever has been going on in our personal lives. We felt, certain symptoms of Mars retrograde. Well, first of all, whenever there's a retrograde, we want to put RE in front of any verb that has to do with that planet. So, action, so reaction. And it's a time to reflect, to regenerate, to renew, to reassess, to reorganize, to rework, and so on and so forth. So basically, when Mars is retrograde, we feel that our motivation may wane. We feel our vitality may drop. We could be unsure as to how to move forward. We are even unsure as to what we want. Mars retrograde is reversing, backpedaling, right? And it's about reviewing our goals that we might have set before the Mars went retrograde. And it's about reviewing or redirecting our purpose, right? So the lesson there is we need to reconnect with our core and go within and, just think about what it is that we truly want, what is our purpose. It's basically a time to regenerate at the spiritual level, at the physical level, at the mental level, at all levels. But also with Mars retrograde and Venus retrograde, both of them can bring older relationships of all kinds, work related, love related, any friendship related, relationships from the past that perhaps represent wounds that have not been fully healed. These relationships may resurface. It's actually a favorable time to reconnect with people from the past, when we are having a Venus retrograde or a Mars retrograde. So it's not just going and putting yourself in fetus position in a cave. It's just basically taking 2 steps back in order to take a gigantic leap forward, right?
I think it's interesting that, we're having this Venus retrograde, which is about like what you value, what's important to you, what you really in your heart like want, kind of your guiding star in a sense. And then the Mars is more about the action, that if you have to reassess what you want. You want to do that work before you send Mars off on a mission to go
Yes,
create something that maybe isn't in
working.
present time the right thing. And since these outer planets are kind of changing and shifting and moving around, and there's been a lot of change since 2020, it makes sense that we would need to reevaluate our desires and our values and what we really want, and then also have Mars take a pause during that time. So it's, I mean, the image I have is if we didn't do that, Mars would just be out there willy nilly creating the wrong thing, and we don't want
I,
that.
I have felt that it has been a blessing in our personal lives. Maybe a lot of us have been frustrated because what happens with the Mars retrograde, especially for people who are Mars led and ruled in their natal chart. So they could be like ascendant Aries, or they could have, Mars or Scorpio, which are the two signs that are ruled by Mars on their angles, or they may have a lot of personal planets, either in one or the other, the Mars or the Aries. And so for those people in particular, they will have felt perhaps a lot of irritation, frustration. The stagnation is like annoying, irritated and angry. If there is rage and anger that was pushed back, repressed, it might have come out or out during the Mars retrograde, which is a good thing, because the whole purpose here is to heal. Like the whole purpose of our life is to heal. So to heal our soul, really, to ascend, to have to go through life and live these experiences, to find a way ultimately to, regardless of what's going on, to find joy and contentment and gratitude. And it's just a challenge. It's a challenge, especially when Mars is retrograde. It's a root chakra issue as well. Because Mars has been in Leo, but also in Cancer. It entered Cancer January 6th, and it is in Cancer now. Cancer rules the moon, and the moon is family and home and real estate and homeland and our deepest emotions and our whatever. The moon in our chart represents where we feel safe or unsafe. So with Mars in Cancer and in retrograde, the whole world has been felt threatened. Like it's like the root chakra is like the grounding, right? And symbolically, it's like an earthquake every day under our feet, and we don't feel secure and rooted and safe. Wherever we feel insecure in our personal chart, wherever that Cancer is, wherever the moon is, wherever the Mars is triggering, that domain for each of us, it's different, has been triggered during this whole Mars retrograde. Now, the good news is it goes direct February 23rd, which is around the corner. So now we need to give Mars a little bit of a time. It has been like right now in the sky, it is completely like almost stopped. It is retrograding so slowly to that stoppage point, February 23rd, and then going forward, gaining momentum slowly. So it has literally been hovering at the 17th degree of Cancer since February 12th all the way until March 9th. It'll be at that degree. So it's like it really means like it's stopped in the sky and it's close to Earth. So if we have something significant, within 3-5 degrees either side of that 17th degree of Cancer in our chart, or any other cardinal signs, so 17 degree of Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, then we will have had this Mars either on top of that planet or square it or opposite it, planet or significant point, right? Like it could be an angle. So anyway, a lot of us have been, feeling like we've been under scrutiny. And I think there will be a lot of release of energy around February 23rd. And perhaps the 2 or 3 days prior to it might be like, you know, that energy that's right
Yeah,
before, like that
that
force that behind the gate, and then the gate opens, and then
yeah.
the Mars goes station direct, and then boom. So we all need to be very mindful and conscious, not to fly off the handle, not to panic, not to overreact, not to any, like, take a breather, ground yourself, you know, like breathe several times before you respond, depending on what will be happening, either at the world level, in our private lives. There might be some explosive Mars is the warrior. Mars is war. Mars is aggression at the negative, you know. On the positive, it's a competitive, like it's you know, it's good energy, right? It's just energy, pure energy. So earlier I was saying that the Mars retrograde, I felt was a blessing for the world, because even though it looks like things are really not going well overall for the planet, with a lot of chaos and a lot of you know, wars going on, and the fires and the um, um, floods and earthquakes, different parts of the world, you know, very traumatic events. I'm feeling that without that Mars retrograde, it might have been worse. There might have been, you know, I don't know. It just feels to me like it was a protection. It was a protection for Mother Earth, overall that whole time. It allowed things to occur, but you know, it held back a lot more strife that might have occurred if Mars had been full on direct, you know.
Right. So Mars is going to go direct February 23rd, you said, and it'll slowly pick up steam
Right.
until the beginning of May.
Exactly. Because
so-
it goes gradually faster and faster and faster moving forward. It gets out of Cancer around April 7th, around April 18th. That's right. And moves into Leo after April 18th of 2025. But it will be out of what we call the shadow, so that retrograde energy. It will be back at its full normal speed starting May 1st, 2nd. Yeah.
Okay. So we have a little time to ease into the speeding up of Mars. And while that's happening, we're going to have Venus going retrograde during that time period. And also, we're going to have the spring eclipses. Do you want to tell us about those two things?
Yeah. So it's extremely interesting. So yeah, so to sum up the Mars, all of us are going to start feeling relief. We're going to start feeling the energy finally moving forward. And some of us have had projects and, you know, a lot of stumbling blocks, or things have been redirected and changed, and we haven't felt that momentum forward energy, and we haven't, you know, gotten the results that we've been wanting as fast as we've been needing them. And so things are going to seriously start feeling lighter and better for most of us, because this world is still a male dominated patriarchal type, like energy. Moving forward, moving outward, you know, is the norm. So we have these expectations that, you know, you put in the work and you expect some results. And with Mars going station direct and forward gradually, it'll be very helpful to a lot of us. I think it is going to be very good. So with Venus, I find it fascinating that the cosmos decided to align Venus and the eclipses, because the eclipses are a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse. They are usually 2 weeks apart. The two of them are 6 months apart from another set of eclipses. So every 6 months we have 2 eclipses, a lunar and a solar. And so these eclipses are going to be March 14th and March 29th. The March 14th eclipse is going to be a lunar eclipse, so that's like a full moon, and so it's a release, it's a letting go, but it's also culmination, it's also clarity, because the full moon we see. At the full moon, at the lunar eclipse, we get, if we've been working toward expecting some kind of payback, it comes around the lunar eclipse, reward, payback, promotion, the change that we are, been working toward, a change of status. A lot of people, without knowing, plan weddings, babies get born, big events in people's lives around eclipses. It's like unconsciously we gravitate toward making these big events occur around the eclipses because they're triggering our chart. And so unconsciously we just plan these events around those times. And so that's the lunar eclipse. The portal, the energy of the two eclipses will stem over 6 weeks. It's usually 2 weeks before the first eclipse. Then the 2 weeks between the two eclipses tend to be the most intense energetically, because you have the orb of the two eclipses. And then the second eclipse is March 29th. And that one will be it's a solar eclipse. So it's sun conjunct moon, and it's going to be at 9 Aries. So to end the portal will end 2 weeks later, right? Mid-April. And so eclipses tend to be opposed, like in opposing signs. So we are now moving into Pisces, Virgo, lunar, solar eclipses. But this solar eclipse of March 29th will be the very last one of the last cycle of eclipses, which was like 18 months or so, in the axis of Aries Libra. So this particular eclipse finishes, so that's yet another ending this year, 2025. We're shifting also the nodal axis and the eclipses from one set of signs, Aries Libra, fire, air, to water, Virgo is earth. And the quality of these two axes, these two, these 4 signs, right, is very different. So so March 29th, solar eclipse at 9 Aries. And so that normally, solar eclipses are like a new moon. So it's a birth, new birth, regeneration, new beginning, energy. And so, so that also will help with that momentum, moving forward in April. And the Venus retrograde is from March 1st to April 12th. And so it's like the same time period as the portal of the eclipses. And Venus, she entered Aries on February 4th, and she will be stationing retrograde March 1st at 11 of Aries, in that Mars sign, that fiery sign of passion and desires and creativity. And Aries is all about leadership and future. It's a very future oriented sign. So it is always several steps ahead. And the Aries energy tends to be, the locomotive, really. And so Venus will be retrograding in that sign. But then she'll be crossing back over into Pisces, and then she'll station direct in Pisces on April 12th, 25 of Pisces, and then she will move back into Aries. When did we say? When did we say she was moving back into Aries?
I don't know if I wrote that down.
Oh, April 30th. April 30th.
So basically during this eclipse period of March 14th and 2 weeks before, then the 29th and 2 weeks after, it's just like heightened energy to just give more power, kind of more oomph
Yeah,
to
to
whatever else
elevate
is
us.
going on. To
And like
elevate it.
whatever we haven't resolved in our lives will show up as a crisis to be resolved. Because that's what eclipses do. They just they unearth things, they bring things to the light that were shoved under the carpet, really. And
Yeah.
the Aries one is about sovereignty, truth, or standing in our own 2 feet, taking position. That's the Aries, the solar eclipse in Aries. It's about being, I said authentic, but sovereign and independent, and having the mindset of a leader,
So
entrepreneur.
so the thing is though that I'm also kind of just getting this picture of is because Venus will be retrograde during that time, and Venus is not necessarily the planet of action. It's more the planet of like what's important to you, what's the driver of your action. Those during that eclipse period, it might be a time of powerfully reflecting on what's important to one and what's
Yes,
valuable and what you want to pour your intention. It's more about
the
intention
heart.
setting, like going
Yeah.
into your heart and figuring out your heart's desire, your intention,
Yes.
to then, when these eclipses are complete, and then we get into both Venus and Mars moving forward more powerfully, that's more of the action time. That's kind of
Right.
how.
Right. So Venus rules relationships of all kinds, heart relationships, work relationships, friendship relationships, women, camaraderie in my French,
Camaraderie.
because I can't say it right. It's of course, the planet of love and creativity. But it also rules our values, our value system, but also our worth, our money, our assets. That's the Taurus part, because there are 2 signs that Venus rules: Libra, which is the relationship part, and the balance part, and the harmony part, and the beauty part. And then Taurus is more the earth. Oh, and Libra is an air sign. And so Taurus is earth, solid, grounded, and rules beauty as well, and Mother Nature. And but it rules money and assets and value in that sense, but also value, like moral value, our moral compass, our spiritual values. um yeah.
Yeah. So
So
this
yeah.
like I kind of want to like tie this up here.
Mhm.
So I was thinking, you and I had mentioned before that it's kind of interesting that Mars is in Cancer, which is more of a feminine sign, and
Right.
Venus will be in Aries,
Aries.
which is more the masculine side. So they've kind of flipped. But we talked about by the beginning of May, um, they will both be in fire signs. Where right? Is that correct? Where Mars
Yes,
will
Venus is
be
going to
moving
be in
into
Aries, and then Mars will be in Leo.
in
The both
Leo.
of them starting in May. I think
Yeah,
we
you
saw
said that
that.
kind of the whole month of May. So we can expect kind of some of this retrograde stuff being heightened by the eclipses. And then when we get into May, it seems like that's when things will really start moving forward even faster.
Right.
Um,
The
and
whole
then
month of May, both of them, the 2 relationship planets, are in fire signs. So a huge outpour of energy, lots of creativity and uniqueness, because the Leo is heart and warmth and courage, but also the Aries is also courage, and Aries is thinking out of the box and being different and unique. And Leo, both of them super creative, super intuitive, warm because it's fire. So a lot of fire energy there the whole month of May. And then we had seen that Venus was going to shift into Taurus, correct, Taurus, earth sign, her own sign, by the way. So she'll be very happy in Taurus, starting June 6th. So yeah, the month of May is going to be, lots of energy. But Venus retrograde is really, again, reassessing, reorganizing, revaluing, anything to do with relationships, women's health, women's issue in general, friendships. It's about healing ego wounds because of Venus in Aries, It's we already said it, but it's figuring out like what are our true passions and desires. It's you know, putting heart in relationships.
Well, and also money, like how you
Yes,
value what you value and what you spend your what you allocate your resources to.
exactly,
Right?
exactly. Like what's the expression? Like you know, like wherever you spend your money is like there's an expression.
I don't
Like
know.
yeah. So
So,
anyway,
okay, well
that
that
people
sounds
speak with
really
their money basically. You know, wherever they spend is what they value, obviously.
right, right. Okay, well, you gave us kind of a big picture of this year, and then we're looking at the specific transits for this spring.
Right.
I think that's a good place to stop. We can do another one of these, like as we
Yeah,
get
yeah,
closer
yeah.
to
We'll
summer.
yeah. There's gonna be plenty to talk about. There's so much going on in the sky, but really, what I want to end this by saying we've got to just put heart into back into everything, and focus on pure intention going forward, and you know, just truly reevaluating everything from a heart's perspective. You know, like that typical question, and what would love say? You know, if you have questions.
Right. But I want to add a little addendum to that. The reason we're being asked to reevaluate that is because we're in a new zone.
Right.
Like these outer planets are changing, and what may have been the most important thing, or what our values, like our values might have changed,
Yes.
and they might still be evolving. And so I think this is a good kind of checkup of like, okay, so where are you at now? What's important now? How do you want to spend your resources now? Um, because things change, and we need to bring our energy into present time. That's a big part of the healing work I do. A lot of times it's just people get stuck out of present time, like, well, that worked great 10 years ago, 5 years ago, when you were a child in a past life, whatever. But what about now? What's the optimal energy
Yeah.
setting for now? So I see some of these retrogrades as falling
Yeah.
into that updating category.
Exactly. Mars and Venus retrograde, and we are not yet into the Venus retrograde, really,
Yeah.
only scratching the surface at the moment. And she's going to happen, you know, during the eclipses. So there will be a lot of reevaluation, and, you know, in certain cases, breakups, you know, of relationships, because it is about looking at things from the heart's point of view, but as objectively as possible, and then eliminating as much toxicity from our lives as possible, right? As we are moving into realizing that we are empowered human beings that are co-creating our lives, our future. And, you know, for me, it's really about constantly bringing my brain back to gratitude, feel, you know, deciding to feel and be in a joyful state, Venus, right? And so, yeah, a lot is going to happen in our respective lives in the next few months, for sure.
Okay, well, we're going
We
to wrap it
shouldn't
up
panic.
here.
That's the point. We should not panic. It's for the better. It's always is for the better, even though it may not look good at the time, if whatever something is perceived as negative.
So, Corinne, if someone wants to book an astrology appointment with you, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, they can go to my website, which is coreawakening.com. So Core Awakening is COR Awakening, all attached, one word, .com. And the same thing with coreawakening@gmail.com.
Okay, I'll write that below too, so people can get that.
Patience is the word, right? Like we had this big word hovering over our heads during the Mars retrograde, patient, be patient, be patient, be patient. But it continues with the Venus retrograde to a lesser degree, thank goodness, because Mars is quite, when it's retrograde, it's quite powerful.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and we'll do this again.
Sure.
And if anyone wants to find out more information about a clairvoyant reading from me or classes, I'm starting to teach classes in person again, which is kind of a big reevaluation for me, and I'm very excited about it. You can get a hold of me at appliedintuition.org is my website, or appliedintuition@cox.net. So everyone have a great rest of your day, and we will see you soon.
Yes,
Take care.
enjoy the rest of February, and March and April will be, more and more greater relief as we are moving forward.
Okay.